What's up, everybody, and welcome back to A Beer a Day with TK. It's a nice, cool, sunny Memorial Day here in Findlay, Ohio, and I'm hanging out in the shed getting ready to have another beer. The beer that I'm going to do today is Yingling Traditional Lager. Now, this is a beer that I've had many times over the years, but I never did a review on this. I've done a bunch of the other Yingling beers. So I did the Oktoberfest. I recently did the Raging Eagle Mango one, did the Hershey's Porter, did the Flight and the Light Lager. So I figured it's time to, give the OG here, the traditional lager, a chance at a review. Now, the one I picked up today is kind of interesting. If you look at the can, we see this digital camo pattern to it. And on the other side of the beer, on the first side here, we have the traditional logo. But on the back, we have this RWB, which is a organization. It's Team Red, White, and Blue. And like it says on the can, it's enriching veterans' lives. Show your support at teamrwb.org. So, even though this is a holiday weekend and a lot of us are going to have barbecues and watch baseball, drink some beers with friends and family, let's not forget why we get to have this day. Men and women put their lives on the line. Many of them lost their lives. That's what we celebrate on Memorial Day. The people that fought for our freedom, and so that we can do the things that we take for granted. So this seemed like a fitting beer, given that it supports this veterans organization. Now, I'd never heard of Team RWB, so I went to the website and looked into them, and it says they do physical and social support for veterans. So if you go to the website, you can donate money, obviously, to these groups that help veterans. But it looks like they do a lot of events as well. So it looked like a lot of them were kind of running related. So I guess, you see a lot of charity 5Ks and things of this nature. So I guess they do that kind of stuff to bring veterans into the community and kind of reintegrate them from, military life back into civilian life and raise money for their families, which is obviously a noble cause. So teamrwb.org. If you're interested, check it out. All right, back to the beer. So Yingling Lager is fairly ubiquitous, I think, east of the Mississippi River now. But this is a relatively new thing. When I was in college in the mid to late 90s, Yingling was everywhere upstate Pennsylvania. But even in Philadelphia, you couldn't find it. I remember going into bars and trying to order Yingling in Philly and people laughing at me. Had no idea what it was. Those same bars now have signs that say proudly serving since 1976. That's not true. They didn't. Probably the early 2000s is when it started to blow up in Philly, at least. Late 90s, early 2000s, and now it's literally everywhere. When I first came out to Ohio for law school around 2007, you couldn't get it out here. Now, again, it's everywhere. So they're rapidly expanding. Now, that's kind of bittersweet. Like, I love the Yingling story. Like I said, when I was in college, Yingling was as cheap as Milwaukee's Best, and we used to get kegs of Yingling all the time because it was cheap and actually pretty decent compared to a lot of the other stuff you could afford, as struggling college students. So as they expand, it's kind of cool to see them growing, but it's also sad because they're going to lose a little bit of, the personal touch or that small town flavor or taste once it becomes, essentially a macro brew. I guess that's what it is at this point. I know they're building more facilities. I think they're teaming up with Miller or somebody else to use some of their facilities or distribution networks or whatever it is. But I'm guessing that pretty soon it will be available nationwide, which I guess if you're the Yingling family is great, or if you just want to try Yingling is great. So it is what it is. All right. As far as ratings on this, it does pretty well. 3.48 on Untapped, Beer Advocate at 3.42. So not great, but not terrible. This is 4.5% ABV. As far as the aggregate score on Beer Advocate, got a 78 of okay. It only has 16 IBUs, so not a very hoppy beer, obviously. Now, this is supposed to be a traditional lager. In most places in Philly and Pennsylvania, when you go into a bar, you don't ask for a Yingling lager. You just order a lager. And it's kind of understood that this is what you're going to get. I can remember I worked as a bartender, out here when I was in law school, and you'd have guys from Pennsylvania come in and order a lager, and the other bartenders wouldn't know what it is because Yingling wasn't available out here. Now, I think everybody kind of knows. All right, let's check it out. I'm going with my Phillies glass today. The Phillies are playing shortly. Nice amber color, fair amount of carbonation. Looks like there's quite a bit of bubbles going on in there, but not a bad looking beer. Look like probably a good finger or so. It looks like it's dissipating kind of quick, but it looks all right. It's white, kind of clunky. Doesn't look too bad. All right, let's give it a shot on the nose here. You kind of pick up a bit of sweet malt. That's kind of it. I mean, you don't really get much else. They don't really pick up much of a hops presence on the nose. It's kind of strange. I probably drank, I don't know, thousands of Yingling Lagers over the years, going back to the 90s. I think this is the first one that I've ever sniffed. Never actually tried to smell it or do any of the, the review type stuff. I just cracked them open one after another and drank them. So, nose, like I said, sweet malt, kind of like that's about it. Let's give it a taste. Cheers. Rather light bodied. I will say this, I really don't drink Yingling as much as I used to. Back in the old days, if your options were this Miller Bud Coors, I would take this any day of the week. Now there are just so many options and so many varieties, so many different macro breweries out there, so many international beers on the shelves that I really don't drink this as much as I used to. Now, like I said, the first thing I pick up is that this is kind of light bodied. It's probably medium barely. I remember this being thicker years ago. Maybe I've just drank better beers and different types of beers and my palate's changed. But it definitely tastes thinner than I remember it being. As far as the taste, there's not a ton going on. You kind of get a nice kind of caramel malt sweetness to it. You do get a tiny bit of hops to balance it out. It's I think barely kind of noticeable, but it's not bad. Yeah, so what do you pick up? Like I said, probably a bit of caramel malt, a little bit of hops on the end. Pretty smooth, medium, probably lighter medium body, like I said. It's not a bad beer. For 4.5% ABV, is relatively light in the ABV. These are drinkable. And, I can attest to that for years. I drank quite a few of these at parties or out of bars and, my younger years. Is it a great beer? No, it's not. But is it better than most of the other macro type stuff that would be in this price range at this level? I would say, yeah, any day of the week. Yingling has honestly become a bit of a divisive beer. Sometimes when you look at the ratings, people just bash it, make it out like it's the worst thing in the world, and I just really don't understand it. Like I said, I know some people are probably salty that they're starting to blow up and they're becoming macro. But it is what it is. It's business. This is America. There's nobody trying to not make more beer, not sell more beer, not expand, right? So it is what it is. I don't really get the hate. Now, the one thing I do think is interesting about Yingling, it seems like they're always trying to expand and do new stuff. Like I said, back in the day, you'd see Black and Tan, Chesterfield, Yingling Premium, Yingling, the traditional lager, the porter, and that's about it. Now I see they're doing other stuff. They did a summer wheat one a little while back. I think it's retired now. They did a Bach beer. They do the Oktoberfest. They did that Raging Eagle. I don't know what they were thinking on that one. I know they're trying to expand and do the fruity stuff. That thing was dreadful. But Yingling Traditional Lager is not bad. Again, if you're at, it's kind of like a default beer. If you're at a bar and they don't really have craft beer, a lot of them will still have Yingling. And to me, it's, maybe it's the shiniest of turds, but it's the best of those styles of beer. And maybe I'm just, a bit sentimental because I've drank this for so many years, but I don't think it's a bad beer. Is it, unique, niche craft beer like we're used to? No, not at all. It's macro or borderline macro. That being said, it's palatable. On a nice warm day, I could drink a few of these, no problem. So Yingling Traditional Lager, you're going to get a thumbs up. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit subscribe. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, jump in down below. If you've had Yingling Lager, or if it's not available where you live, kind of let me know what you think. Are you excited to see them expanding? Excited to try it out in the state or country where you live? Hey, till next time, have a great Memorial Day. And, while we're having beer and barbecue, let's just remember those that gave their lives and paid the ultimate sacrifice for us, right? Cheers.